All right, everyone. Welcome once again to the Faces of Business. I'm your host, Damon Pistolka, and I will get the microphone close to me first here. I am happy today, very excited for our guests. We have Adam Baker with us today, and we are going to be talking about building relationships to grow sales. Adam, thanks for being here today.
Damon, thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to maybe peeling back the curtain a little bit because we broker so many deals. We really get an inside look at why businesses continue relationships with their vendors, and so it'll be fun to just kind of discuss that.
Yeah, I'm going to write that down. So, Adam, when we have guests on, we always like to start back in the beginning. So let's start back a little ways with you. When you were in college, is it you decided to go into the Air Force, or was it before college, or when did you decide to go into the Air Force, or how did you decide?
So it was before college. All of my siblings joined the military when we grew up. We didn't, my mother was a single mother with a 10th grade education. We didn't have a whole lot.
Yep.
College wasn't something that anybody could really guide us to. And we lived off the government. And my mom was always of the mindset that, you don't get anything for free. If you get something, you give it back. So we all joined the service. That was the only way we knew how to give back. My older brothers joined the Marines. My sister joined the Army, and I was the youngest. And after hearing their experiences, I thought there is no way I want to join either of those branches.
Yeah.
And I don't like the water, so the Air Force made the most sense for me. And I joined and got stationed in Enid, Oklahoma, which when I found out I was going to Oklahoma, I had to look on a map. I had no idea where it was. And it was a terrific assignment for me because there was nothing there to get me in trouble.
Yeah.
All I could do was stay on the base, work, and study. And I was really fortunate, had some great leadership, and they put me in for a scholarship to get out of the Air Force early, go get my degree, get my commission, and then come back into the Air Force.
Yeah.
So they set me up. There were, I think 305 people applied for the scholarship. They accepted 7, and I was one of them.
Wow.
And so got out, went to the University of Pittsburgh. I was going to be, I knew I was going to go back in the Air Force, but I wanted to be a cop. I had a teacher in kindergarten that she told me, she said, Adam, you've got a helping spirit. You're going to be a cop one day, And so I was going to go get my degree, be a cop, and come back in. And I finished tops in my class in ROTC, and my commander said, hey, you have an opportunity to be a pilot. If you want to be a pilot, we'll give you a pilot slot. And I've never been the guy that said, hey, I want to fly. Like Top Gun was not a favorite movie of mine.
Yeah.
But when you're young and 20 and you think, oh, pilot, why wouldn't I want to do that? So I said, yeah, let's go for it. So I get a pilot slot and I go to pilot training, and I suck at flying, and it wasn't very much fun. And so about 6 months in, I go to my commander, and his name's Captain Burnup, which is a terrific name for a pilot.
Yeah.
And I tell him it's not for me, and he moves me over to being a cop, and I'm leading 50 young airmen out in Montana. And you and I had talked about experiences in Great Falls, Montana. And so that's kind of how my Air Force career kind of went.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And it's interesting you say that, because I grew up, I've got 3 brothers, and all 4 of us were in the military.
Oh, okay.
And a younger sister that didn't go, but all 4 of us did. And it was primarily because, at the same time, it's a way to get to college. So the GI Bill paid for a lot of our college, and it was important in our family. But yeah, so pilot training wasn't for you.
It wasn't, and it's one of those stories where I never really believed that passion mattered in what you do. You can grunt through anything. And after experiencing that, I'm like, I'm not very good at this, but you could usually overcome things that you're not good at if you care enough.
Yeah.
But it wasn't something that I really was passionate about. So I was like, why am I killing myself to do this? I'm staying up late at night to study for something that wasn't what I was passionate about. I was passionate about helping people and leading people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then your experience as a military police person, what did you like it?
I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Honestly, I could have cared less about what I did. I loved leading troops. I loved being able to help them make a difference in their life, because that's what I had happen for me,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so I love that. Um, I love the fact that I got to serve, and I got a call one day, and I had an opportunity to deploy. It was deploying with an Army unit
Mm-hmm.
over in Iraq, and I said, "Yes, I want to go. Like that's what we want to do." And so I went and I deployed and got to do some really fun stuff. But when I came home, she was my girlfriend at the time. My wife now said, "Hey, I don't know where this is going, but if you're in the service, it's not going anywhere. Like I
Yeah.
don't want you to leave me for lengths of time.
Yeah.
So if you get out of the service, we'll go wherever you want to go." So I really had to choose. You know, I loved being in the service, loved leading. I was doing it really, really well. But it's always the story of the girl, right? And I said,
Yeah.
well, you know what? I better hold on to this because I don't know if I'll find this anywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. So you got out of service, you moved into Pennsylvania, and you're working for a utility company there, correct?
Correct. Yep. So jumped in with the utilities because of my military experience and my leadership. I got put into a role. Did well at that for a few years. That time frame, you know. So I went to school and I got my degree in criminal justice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a criminal justice degree, unless you're going to be a cop, doesn't take you very far.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I, during that first few years while I was there, I went back and got my master's degree in business.
Mm-hmm.
And after I finished that, I had an opportunity. You know, I just kept getting more opportunities, getting promoted. To
Yeah. It's like
ultimately, I was leading the metrics and performance improvement team.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool because you move from the military into the private sector, and in the utility companies, there's so much of the similar thing where you're leading a lot of people. It takes a lot of coordinated effort, and I mean, keeping power going is not an easy thing.
It is not. It is not.
It takes a lot of people doing the right things, and the other thing is too is it's not, from the little bit that I know about it, it's not extremely automated in a lot of ways that people would think it is, or there's a lot more human input in it, I guess, than I would.
You're absolutely right. You know, it's we had the capability to do some remote sectionalizing, but that's, you still got big swaths of customers out where you're going to send guys out to do some more manual switching to get it down to a small of an outage, and then you've got to put crews on it to replace the broken pole or put the wires back up.
Yeah, yeah. So then you decided to go to Schooley Mitchell. So what really prompted the change?
Man, there's a lot of reasons. Probably the biggest one is during my time in the utilities, I was part of a lot of strategic initiative teams. I worked with a lot of consultants, and they always shook out the same way, where we'd start with these, you know, big wild goals, and as we worked closer and closer to them, we put in a lot of effort, and we always fell short of hitting those goals. And it didn't matter if we were leading them internally. If we had, you know, we worked with DECRA for safety, we worked with McKinsey for operations. It didn't matter who we brought in. We never quite hit the goal that we set. And it was frustrating. And I can remember I was leading a strategic initiative team, and we found about $500,000 of savings a year. And everyone was excited for it, and we never hit the goal. And the reason is because there were too many people that were involved in making that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so the sense of accomplishment wasn't there. So I said, you know, this probably isn't what I want to do for the next 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as I was exploring other opportunities, I thought, well, I can't go to another large corporate job because it's going to be the same exact thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I came across Schooley Mitchell is a franchise system.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, if I buy a franchise, how's that going to be different? The difference with Schooley Mitchell is they control the whole process. So they'll come in, they identify the issue, they develop the solutions, and they implement it. And so you have full control. So whatever you say you're going to achieve, it gets achieved. And so that's what really drew me into that. And I said, you know what, that's where I want to be. So I purchased my franchise, and it's been great since.
Awesome. So as you're working with Schooley Mitchell, we'll talk about this a little bit. You're helping people reduce costs running their business, but today we were talking about building relationships to grow your business. What were some of the things that really brought that home for you when you started to get out and try to do things with your business?
So, when I purchased my Schooley Mitchell franchise, it says, hey, listen, the whole premise behind Schooley Mitchell is you don't pay us any money unless we save you money. So we're absolutely risk-free. And so as I met with businesses to try to talk to them about what we can do, there would be times where they would say, we're not interested in having anyone look at this. And it says, well, we could uncover savings and it doesn't cost you anything. Why wouldn't you? And it always boiled down to because we have a good relationship with our vendor. And as I dug into that, I said, well, what does that mean, a good relationship with them? And the more it boiled down to it, the best way to frame that was they felt like their vendor had their best interests at heart. And when they do that, then they weren't interested. It didn't matter how much money they were going to save. It didn't matter if they were going to find a better product. They weren't interested in changing. And it was really enlightening to see that, because you think of all the times people are trying to make budget, the thing they're not sacrificing is that vendor that builds a good relationship with them.
Yeah, that's a great point. So at that realization, when you went, man, these people have good relationships with these vendors and they don't care if it costs them a little bit more to do it. What did that help you? What kind of light turned on in your head then?
So for me, and Dave Chrysler is probably the only other guy that loved
you got out for a second there.
For everyone, and it wasn't. So I thought, if I can build relationships with these businesses, then we can help form a really good partnership where not only am I saving them money, but then they're going to refer me to their friends and to their associates. And so really focusing on building that relationship and showing them, hey, I do have your best interests at heart. That really helped move my business along, because now instead of trying to cold call or do cold outreaches, I get business referred to me all the time.
Yeah. So as you're doing this and you're building these relationships and you're out there meeting people, doing things, do you think that it's been something where you really niched down and said, these are only the people that I'm going to build relationships with? Or is it pretty wide open and you're like, and just to understand, you're saying you're getting referrals coming in. Was it a matter of niching down into just the right people, or was it casting a wider net?
So I would say I've got two nets, right?
Okay.
And I've got a very wide net that picks up, just knowing different services that work out there. And I'll give you an example of that. And then I've got another net of people that do something very similar to me, where they'll help reduce costs. And I build really strong relationships with those ones. And then, obviously my clients, I try to build a very, very strong relationship with them, because they are my greatest champions. So a really, really cool story about the big net, right? And just knowing one. Most people don't believe this, but I am very, very introverted. Right? Meeting with people doesn't energize me. It's tough. It's taxing. But I know part of my responsibilities as a business owner is to network. Well, networking to go get business isn't something that I get excited for. So I had to really change my mindset and say, okay, if I network to find people that can help my clients. And you mentioned this. You had your show with Kurt Anderson. You had mentioned this about finding people that
Yeah.
that do it. So I met a woman who she's very good at linguistics. She will go into organizations and she will help your employees learn English, and she'll help the leadership team learn whatever language they speak. That way it kind of bridges the gap, and it allows a business to kind of widen their pool of prospective employees. I was sitting down with a prospective client and we were having a discussion, and I always ask the question, outside of anything I can help you with, what is one area that you're struggling with? And they said, we hired Syrian refugees to work on our manufacturing plant, but they speak Arabic, we speak English, and it's very, very tough to communicate. And I said, I've got someone I'd love to introduce you to if it's okay. Right. And so what that did for me is, in that prospective client's eyes, they said, this guy cares about us. Right. I don't have a horse in the race.
Yeah.
Right. But let me connect you to and try to solve one of your problems. That's why having that big net is very, very useful.
Yeah, that's a great example. And it's those nets, you never know when they're going to come into play either, because I just had a chance this last week to someone I've known for a long time is now helping us with a client because there's a specific need that they have. And people wonder why, as you said, you cast such a wide net and you're not focused in on just the people that might be in that business or something, because you can help people, as you said, outside of your scope, but really help your clients get to the place that they want to get to.
And that's really what matters. And Damon, like, when I boil this down, like I said, we talk to thousands of businesses a year, right? And what we find is a lot of businesses want to compete on product, price, or service, right?
Yeah.
And it's a losing strategy, because depending on the pain point your client is feeling at any one time, someone's going to come in and beat you. Because you can't be great at all three of them. And so how do you become, where you are so integral to them that you can help solve problems that have nothing to do with you, that they don't want to let you go? I think it was Tom Herman. You and Tom Herman were discussing knowing your ICP and knowing them so well. You want to know your clients so well that you know their pain points that have nothing to do with you, so that when there's an issue, you can make a recommendation to them. And they're like, you know what? Someone may come and they might save us more money than Adam. They might take less of a percentage, but Adam solves so many issues for us. We aren't going to leave him.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny, in operating businesses, there have been a few people that I've known over my career that were like that. And I can remember them. I remember one by name, especially one gentleman in Tennessee, Bill Ryder. And if anybody's in the Jackson, Tennessee area, they know this guy. He was a legend in innocuous things as manufacturing supplies to run a facility, right? Like anything. But if he didn't have it, he would always get you in contact with somebody else that did. And those people like that, you go, yeah, price is kind of important, but really, he's coming back again next week, and if I have a problem, he's going to have somebody else that's going to know what to do, or he's going to have someone that knows how to help us.
Yep. And what you have is that trusted resource. So you're not Googling, like, you're not trying to say, okay, how do I even solve this problem? And when I figure out a solution, how do I know I can trust them? You just say, Damon, I've got a problem. What can, how can you help me? And if you recommend it, they didn't have to look for it, and they don't have to vet them because you already have.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is so huge, because as business people, we don't have time to do that.
Correct.
And it's really kind of interesting. We're talking about this because I was talking with some clients this morning about that, and helping them really understand. And one of the things that they were actually talking about is building relationships. That's what we do better than anybody else. We do, some of our stuff is similar, but the relationships we build and the way that we work because of those relationships is really what we think is our unique value proposition in the industry.
Yeah.
And it's valid too. It's valid. You know, a couple of instances like you're talking about where you help those clients with other outside resources, and you know, you are part of the family.
That's exactly it. That's exactly the, you know, the thing that I love telling this kind of story or this example of doing it. So again, the product, price, the service, right? That's what everyone. So
Yeah.
think about this, right? Whenever you find a McDonald's, not far away, you're going to find a Wendy's and you're going to find a Burger King, right? And me personally, I think Burger King has better burgers, right?
There you
I
go.
think McDonald's has better fries. On the cost side, you know, I think Wendy's is just a little bit cheaper, right? So they all have their thing. They're all kind of the same. So logic would say I would split my money 3 ways amongst them whenever I go out to eat. But I don't. 90% of the time, I end up at the same restaurant, and it's McDonald's. And do you know why that is?
Because the kids like the Happy Meals.
It's the Happy Meal. Damon, so here's what this is, right?
I live that, dude.
Here's the genius behind this, right? And you could go to Burger King and Wendy's and get a kid's meal, right? But the kid's meal is going to come in a bag. The bag looks just like mom and dad's. They don't feel special at all, right? You go to McDonald's and the kids are going to get their own little box that's so different than mom and dad. They feel special. They're eating it. They're enjoying their meal while mom and dad get to enjoy our meal, right? McDonald's is not in the business of selling boxes, but they have perfected that to the point that we don't go anywhere else. No matter what the product, price, or service is, we're not going anywhere else because they have perfected that.
Yeah. And they're building those relationships and getting that with their clientele. And they understand that by doing that little thing for those young kids, they're giving the parents a few minutes of peace, maybe.
Yep. And if we're driving down the road and we say, okay, where does anyone want to eat tonight? Kids are always shouting McDonald's.
Oh, yeah.
If I take them to Burger King, you know, I'm going to, I really want a McDonald's, you know, and it's like, you know, so it's easier. They have figured it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And that lasts too for my son all the way through. He was out of high school. That was his deal, man. That's awesome.
So it's funny, and not to get too far down to McDonald's, but McDonald's has figured out, right? So as they do this as a child, because you feel all these really good feelings when you go to McDonald's, you get that Happy Meal. As an adult, you go back and it reminds you of those feelings. And so, I mean, they've done a really, really good job behind it.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you talk about building relationships too, and how that helps you in business, people often look at it when you start out in business, or you're starting out doing like when you started your business, and go, well, I should just be here and just talk to people here, because that might not be my real audience. But what you don't understand is you never know where that business is going to come from, or whose sister, brother, father-in-law, son-in-law is going to be the perfect client for you. And, you know, I got clients coaching baseball. I got clients, you know, doing other, you know, you just never know.
Yeah.
And the thing is and you say too, introvert, I am too. I would rather not be out there doing some of those things, but I think for introverts, it's easier if we flip the switch and think about helping other people.
Absolutely.
Because when you do it in that spirit of helping other people, then it becomes a lot easier.
Right. Because we say, okay, we love to solve problems. Solving problems energizes us. So how do we kind of change that mentally? Say, okay, taking something that would typically be, you know, emotional drain, how do we get it to energize us?
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. So what are some of the relationships you've built that have been really interesting to you, that you would have never thought? Someone looks at the outside and go, oh, there's a relation. I would have never thought that was a business relationship that you wanted to build, and that's been beneficial for you.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be very similar to your example. So it was a cost reduction consultant that works in utilities, right? Which is a sandbox we play in.
Yeah.
And one of my clients actually introduced us, said, "Hey, I think you two would hit it off." And me and this gentleman, we sat down and we met, and we did, we got along. And what we found was our clientele were different. That I worked when I did utilities, it was only for large scale manufacturers. And he didn't have a threshold, so he could work with a lot of smaller ones. Well, I pick up a lot of smaller clients, nonprofits, retail shops, things like that, that I can't help them reduce their costs in utilities. So I refer him in. He's able to save them money. I look like the hero. He does well. And it got to the point where he said, "Adam, he said, I'm going to start introducing you to my clients. That way you can do cost reduction for all the other areas that I don't touch." And so a lot of people think, well, why would you guys, I mean, you compete, but we don't compete. We're very complementary if you can look at it that way.
I am so glad you brought up that example, because I don't know how many times, and you probably get this too, that people will be talking to me, but, oh, that's probably a competitor of yours. And I'm like, I haven't thought of a competitor as a competitor in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
It's like, because when you look at it, that competition is more in my mind than it is in anyone else's mind. And then
Right.
the other business person too, even if they thought about me as a competitor, it's more in their mind than it is I'm really competing against them. Right.
Right.
Because I have never, in I don't know how many years doing this, helping people build and sell businesses, never run into a situation where I went, "Oh, we're head to head competing and, blah, blah, blah." Yeah. There've been people we bid on the same stuff with people once in a while. But you know what? You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. I mean, it's just the way it is. And,
Yep.
comes back again to the relationship. Did I do a good job of building a relationship? Did I really show value in what we do? Am I a good fit for what they're supposed to be doing? Because, you really got to look at what's the best fit. So when I look at things and people talk about that competitive thing, I really love it when you build these relationships like this, is to be able to be talking to someone that could be a potential client, and you tell them, "No, I'm not the best person for you. This is
Yeah.
really what you should be doing."
Yeah.
And it could be a competitor, it could be just someone different that you need to do, because I think as you're building relationships and you're helping people with those other things, even if you can't help them with what you do, but giving them a good resource for what they need,
Mhm.
leaving with a good feeling about you means that down the road, that relationship could pay off in another way when someone talks to them about something that you do.
Yep.
And they said, I've talked to this person and they were kind enough to point me in the right direction, but they might be able to help you.
Yeah. And so that goes back to, when I said that these businesses, when they don't want to leave vendors because of the relationship, and
Yeah.
really the relationship is they feel like that business is putting their needs first. And when you refer someone that people think is your competitor, like, this guy really cares about me, and he says, "Hey, you're a better match with this person, you should probably link up with them," you have made them feel that you put their needs first. And that's critical to the relationship.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And it happens in our business a lot. It happens in our business a lot where we're not the right fit, because we are pretty nichey about what we do. And it is great to still be able to help people, point them in the right direction, find someone that will at least listen and try to help them the right way. And so you can leave them knowing that you did what you could
Yeah,
to help.
absolutely.
Yeah. That comes
Absolutely.
back again to building relationships,
Yeah,
and those things come around.
they do.
They do. Yep. So what's been interesting in your world in the last few months?
Oh my gosh. So we talk about building relationships. So Schooley Mitchell's a franchise system, right? There's a lot of franchisees out there. In November, I went to our annual conference down in
Mm-hmm.
Jamaica, Really, really cool opportunity. Like to pat myself on the back. I did receive Rookie of the Year, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Good job.
But I got to meet a lot of different franchisees that have skill sets that are different than mine. And I built relationships. And one of the franchisees, he and we hit it off because our skill sets are different. And I had an opportunity to get in front of a $1 billion company. And he and I sat down, and it looks like we're going to be able to work, and save this $1 billion company. And this may turn out to be a multi-million-dollar deal for us. That I know I couldn't have gotten on my own, because while I built a relationship to get in front of them, I needed his skill set to get us across the line. And so that's probably the coolest thing. So we've got a bunch of different projects now that he and I are working on that. It's different than the typical Schooley Mitchell franchise model where everyone's working by themselves. And so that's probably the coolest thing that's been happening lately.
And that's really cool that you're doing that, because it is, we talk about collaboration. People talk about collaboration a lot. And I think what you're doing there is showing how building those relationships allows you to collaborate at a deeper level with, as we talked about just recently, someone will say it might be a competitor, but it's really not when you look at it, because you wouldn't have got the deal.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I don't think I could get it on my own, because what they needed to hear is not my skill set. Right. And so it works. And those sort of situations, they work well if you think outside the box. Instead of saying, well, I don't want to share any of the savings that we're able to achieve. It's like, well, I'd rather get 50% of something than 100% of nothing.
Yep. That's a little better payout.
Yes. Yeah.
And you're helping them too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So as you're building these relationships, how much of your week is spent talking to people, building relationships?
Oh, I would probably say 70% of my week is based on building relationships.
Nice.
Because we don't cold call. And so it's building relationships where, we get referred into other businesses. So today I talked to multiple folks that I was referred to. I didn't reach out to them. But I've also created a couple hacks to make building those relationships a little easier. I don't know. Do you use Google Alerts at all?
Yeah.
Okay. So Google Alerts, a lot of people don't use them for, if you're B2B, it's a lot easier. If you're B2C, it's a little more challenging. Maybe you pick your VIP clients or whatever, but getting those indications of when something's happening. And then I can send a card off. Like I had 2 clients that showed up in a Best of Erie. They received the Best of Erie award from a magazine that I would have never read.
Yeah.
But they showed up in my Google Alerts, and I saw it, and I sent them off cards. Right. And it was just okay. And they responded and say, hey, thank you so much for thinking of us. We appreciate that. Right. And so I found ways to kind of hack that time to build those relationships. That way I'm not spending all day saying, okay, what are my clients doing today?
That's awesome. And that's a great way to use it. We use it for other reasons. So, to list industry things that are coming out and doing those kind of things. But if you're following a distinct set of clients, that is a great way to do that.
Yeah. So one of the things that I found that helps build relationships, I like to call it being strategically spontaneous. Okay. And what happens is a lot of businesses, they want to build relationships by sending Christmas cards. And they want to build relationships by sending anniversary cards, which those are good to do, but so is everyone else. When you send a Christmas card, they're getting it at the same time every other one of their vendors. You don't stick out. Okay. But if you send a card later on in the year for something really cool that happened, you stick out, and they say, you know what? Adam is really paying attention to what we've got going on.
Yeah.
And so stuff like that. And so it allows you, again, to be just strategically spontaneous. It lets you stick out.
Yeah. I'm writing that down because that's something that people should really think about doing. Strategically spontaneous. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that thought because it really does make a difference. Because you said, like you said, right? Everybody gets a Christmas card, everybody gets a birthday card, whatever it is. But when you win a nondescript industry award, how many people are going, "Hey, good job,"
Yeah.
if they're not in
Yep.
the industry?
That's exactly it.
Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah, great
Just
idea.
things like that. And really one of the things that I think is important is knowing the pain points of your clients. That way, as you're meeting with other folks, you're thinking about their pain points. And I give you another really good example of something that you can do. I work with a lot of veterinary clinics, and vet clinics are struggling to hire both veterinarians and vet techs. It's
Mhm.
ultra competitive. There's just not a lot of them out there.
Yep.
And then post pandemic, there's a higher demand. So we have this going on where they need this. Okay, so I've got clients in the vet space. I've got some large scale prospective clients that I want to work with, and I meet with a financial planner. And this financial planner and I just talked. I said, "Well, what's going on? What's new that's come out? Like, does anything change?" He said, "Well, actually, Adam," he said, "Congress just passed a law that allows businesses to do a 401k match against a student loan payment." He said, "Where they, a lot of times when someone graduates college and they join a business, they have to delay participating in a 401k plan because all of their money is going to their student loans." He
Yeah.
said Congress just approved that company can enroll them in the 401k without the employee paying. They can pay their student loan and the company can match that student loan payment to a 401k. The magic of compound interest, allows them
Yeah,
to grow.
yeah.
So when I thought about that, I did a little write up for my vet clinics and for the vets that I'm looking for. I said, "Hey, did you hear about this? If you can get in front of this and build a program before anyone else, you are going to have the competitive advantage whenever you go out to recruit." And again, it's them seeing me as Adam is a guy that cares about our business, even though it has no impact on him whatsoever. And
Yeah.
and so if you can know the pain points of your clients, again, it's another hack. You say, "Okay, I've got this on my mind. When I
Yep.
come across something, how do we help them solve it?"
That's very cool. That's very cool because it is one of those things that will help you bring different solutions to people that will create more memorable interactions and build those relationships.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you dropped some good ones today, dude. It's like, strategically spontaneous using Google alerts. Who would have thought if people listening don't know what a Google alerts are, go and search what it is and it'll tell you. They're really good. You can get daily or weekly,
Yep.
emails of things happening on. It really is good, but I never thought about using it in terms of a client and a specific person or whatever you're trying to look at.
Yeah.
So that's
So
all.
imagine this, Damon, right? So I know you're involved in Little League, right?
Yeah.
You were president of the Little League organization. I forget what that organization was called. The Seattle.
Yeah, it was a private baseball club, but yeah.
Yeah. So imagine I've got you in there, right? And I see that your team, either you guys raised a ton of money or your team won the championship, right? And I just send you a card saying, "I know how much work you put into
Yeah.
that thing. I think it's awesome." When you see that, you are gonna say, "Man, that makes me feel good."
Yep.
I'm glad that he's paying attention. And that's the kind of response you want to elicit, becoming that emotional favorite.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. And that's just that's a great way to say it. Becoming that emotional favorite.
Yeah.
I'll write that down. Man, a lot of things to write down today. Well, and what you're doing too is it's not most I don't want to say most, but a lot of people do not like selling.
Yeah.
But when you build relationships, it's not really selling because if it's appropriate and you need to do it's appropriate to do business, you'll do business.
Yeah.
And I personally think it is a much I don't know. For me anyway, it's a better way. That's all I'll say.
It is a much, and I've got a quote over here that I'm going to read you, because you asked me how much time I spend on this, right? 70% people are like, well, how are you not going out and getting business that way, right? And it's because I don't want to chase clients. I want to build the relationship so much that people call me. And there's a quote that says, when you call a prospect, you're a salesman. When a prospect calls you, you're an expert, right? And so if you perform at such a level and you make your clients feel so good that they're referring you, you're talking to people and they don't see you as a salesman. They see you as an expert.
Yep. And this comes back again to Andrew Deutsch, who I talked to last week or the week before. You know, he's CEO of a company that and I forget where it's at. It's in the East Coast there, and it might be even close to where you're at in Pennsylvania. But it's they're doing power washing, house cleaning, roof cleaning, and other kind of things around the home. And he's always talked about it for years, that you need to, everybody you interact with needs to become a voracious advocate for your brand. And what you're talking about is doing that, is helping people, becoming that emotional favorite, becoming that person that does the thing that really makes a difference, spontaneous or strategically spontaneous, and paying attention to the events that other people might not, or doing the things that other people might not, by going out of your way to make sure that someone gets the help they need, or doing that. So yeah, it's good business is built around that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's and you're right. It's for if you don't like sales, right? And you don't like, I'm not a guy that if I sit down with a business and they object to me, I'm not the guy that tries to, rebut their objection and say, oh, that's great. Is there anything else I can help you with? And can you keep me in mind? This is a really, really good way to build a business without having to feel like you need to overcome a bunch of objections with people.
Yeah. Because like you said, you're a salesperson. If you're overcoming objections, you're an expert if people are coming to you. So
that's exactly it.
Yeah. Well, Adam, this has been awesome talking to you, dude. I'm so glad you had so many good nuggets in here, talking to people about just how these relationships help, how some of these ways you've worked with other people to build relationships to help grow your business and help their business and help your clients. I think it's awesome.
I appreciate the opportunity to come in. It was fun. A lot of people, no one got to hear our conversation beforehand. We've got that Montana link, and it was funny. This was a really cool opportunity to be on the show, and I really appreciate you having me.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Adam, for being here. Hang out for a minute. Thanks everyone else that was listening today. Come back again. We're here on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 3 p.m. Pacific with other guests, or you can check us out on Exit Your Way. Adam will be there, and then Adam will be on our podcast a few weeks from now as well. So thanks so much, everyone. We'll be back again.